Good day and welcome to this Silly Point podcast. We're talking about the latest England fiasco. Could call it that, I suppose. I'm joined by Richard Hanson, New Zealand cricket tragic and freelance journalist, and Declan Hooper from Wickets and Pickets, tragic balder or balding tragic. I'm not sure what it is. He's wearing a hat to cover up his
tragic bowler, whatever.
Anything tragic. Let's we'll start at the end, I suppose, Richard, with England, and they went into the last day at Lord's, on marginal favourites, or more than marginal favourites. They get Rishabh Pant out, and then the second last pair put on 90, whatever it is, and Joe then end up losing the game remarkably. What do you put that down to?
Captaincy tactics was shocking. The Bumrah and Shami had absolutely no business scoring that amount of runs. India have effectively 4 number 11s in their side, and the fact that they wagged the way that it did, and then the way that the English top order just folded the way that it did was remarkable. Normally if the tail wags a bit, you're probably gonna think that the pitch is pretty good still. If you're an opener and you see the number 11 getting runs from the other side, you're thinking, okay, well, there's no demons in this pitch. And yet, Rory Burns was out in the first over, and there was a bit of a procession aside from Joe Root with a little bit of resistance. I wasn't a fan of the short pitch bowling tactics. They're not Neil Wagner from New Zealand. Jimmy Anderson, world-class bowler, line and length, use the slope, swing it away, get the edge. I mean, I know that, I know Broad's not there. I know Archer's not there. Wood was still bowling well. He got wickets in the first innings. He did well, a bit of spin.
Jimmy Anderson, when he was batting, another famous number 11, copped a few to the body and copped a few short balls from the Indian pace attack.
Especially Bumrah.
On, I think it was Saturday evening here. And I'm just wondering if that was a bit of a kind of a get one back almost in some ways, because I think Jimmy Anderson copped that barrage and obviously got bowled out in the last ball of the day as well. You think that they probably have to look at the bigger picture there, in the sense that, there's getting your own back, but then there's also winning the bloody test match. You know what I mean? That's the best way.
Dismiss him. I mean, that's the way to get it. That's the way to get your own back, right?
There was a lot of aggro going on in this game, particularly between Virat Kohli and Jimmy Anderson. But to get into that slanging match, when a bit of a dangerous path to tread, I think the Indians can back it up at the moment, especially with Mohammad Siraj and Bumrah. They can back it up, but England can't back it up with their batting because at the moment they're not performing. They're not getting runs. So for them to keep having a go and wind India up.
I think the best thing to do with this Indian team, if you were playing this Indian team, in my opinion, if I was the captain of an opposing side, I would be absolutely waxing lyrical about how good they were. If you look at the way that the Australian team and the Australian media dealt with the Indians when they lost, however many players they had injured, and they effectively won at the Gabba with a second 11 or third 11. When they get backed into a corner, they fight. I would be saying, Virat Kohli is the greatest batsman in the history of the world.
Stroke his ego a little bit.
Yeah, the spinner, Ashwin and Jadeja turn around corners, and their swing bowlers, Bumrah, he's just unplayable half the time, etc., etc. Play into that way of it. I think is a strategy, and because then the pressure's all back all on them. But yeah, you're totally right. These guys were told they couldn't do it, and they came out and have done it. And I've been saying now that the one in England are 1-0 down in the series. They're gonna have to win 2 out of the next 3 Test matches. The weather's not on their side. It's not particularly. It's grey here in England, and I don't imagine there's going to be much more sunshine to come this summer. So I really think Joe Root missed a trick. Bowl the tail out quickly, just line and length, just put it in the right areas. They'll nick one eventually. Then you've got 200 or so to chase, 70 or 80 overs to do it in. Even if you lose it lose a few early ones, you only really need one half decent partnership in a chase like that to get close. And then it's 1-0 to England rather than 1-0 to India. It was poor. It was really poor for me.
Even saying that, when they actually were batted out of it, so to speak, they only had to face 60 overs. So if you work it out, and they finished, India had to bowl another 8 overs. So all that needed for Dom
48
Stibley,
balls.
Yeah, and it took him like 200 balls to get 20 in the first innings. But him and Burns get out in the first couple of overs. Joe Root, unfortunately, you can't blame him because he can't do it all the time. All they had to do is last another 48 balls with it at the top of the order.
Yeah,
not down the order, at the top of the order. You're obviously not going to chase the runs down because by that stage it had gone.
Yeah, of course.
But this was a chance to say, right, up you, India. We are not losing this Test match.
Get to a point where you can't lose. Before you worry about winning, get to a point where you're going to at least draw the game. And like 48, 8 overs for an opening pair, even 24 balls each. I mean, you can't, and then you also can't blame the tail for folding relatively quickly. It's not their job.
I think there was a few psychological battles, and I think clever tactic by Virat Kohli too to actually not declare at the break, throw them in for another few overs. Declare, I think it was halfway through Jimmy Anderson over as well.
That would have annoyed him. That would really annoyed him. Well,
I think all them little mind games, I think, definitely helps when they came out to bat. I think he showed that, even just coming back after tea, warming up again, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think all plays into it. I think it was really clever captaincy.
I was thinking, it was at lunch, and I was actually thinking, I wonder if Kohli's going to declare at 12, at 1:40, at 1:38, just before they're supposed to go back out onto the ground, he'd go into the England changing room and say, "We declare, boys." Because if you were Rory Burns, you get to have a shower, you'd have a lovely time rather than run off and chuck your pads on. Yeah, it's sensible. Yeah.
Joe Root admitted that he got the tactics wrong on that final day. No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah, well, at least he admitted it. At least he came.
But look, I reckon Chris Silverwood has to take a little bit of the blame for that because number of times that they send people out to change gloves, or the Indians doing that, surely a message could come out and say, guys, this ain't working. We need to get line and length. Jimmy Anderson played 100 and odd Test matches. This ain't working, Joe. We got to change back to line and length. Surely at some point when they would have seen that.
But that's the thing. No, I completely agree with what you're saying. And we talk about how, is England's lack of success in red ball cricket because they've been playing too much, shorter forms of the game. But I think this is part of it. I think patience, that comes down to whether that's batting for 48 extra balls or that's just relying on the same tactic for a little bit longer, just bowling line and length for 10 overs, is something that's not as ingrained in the English psyche. Not just England, but just, cricket in general. Chopping and changing things. But also, the lack of senior players on the field, obviously Ben Stokes not there does leave a massive hole in terms of leadership. Obviously we wish him well, and fair enough that he's not there, but, that does make it made a massissive difference. He probably would have gone to Joe Root and say, look, what are you doing? Stop telling your bowlers to bowl bouncers and I'll pitch it up a bit and we'll probably nick them off. And then obviously Stuart Broad not being there leaves another massive hole. I know Jimmy's really experienced, but he was doing some of the bowling. It's sometimes easier to notice these things if you're not the actual person sending the ball down.
Josh Buttler's probably now becoming one of the more senior England players, and he put up a little bit of resistance with the bat in that fourth innings, him and Ollie Robertson. They still had Moeen Ali on the pitch as well. Moeen Ali is, one of the more experienced English cricketers as well. I think captains his county.
Well, yeah, but if you were Moeen Ali, would you want to be putting in your all constantly? The amount of times he's been dropped and recalled, I tell you what.
The point is that even Johnny Besto as well. There's some experience. There's probably 5 or 6 experienced cricketers in that team. Yeah. Even without Broad and Ben Stokes, even that batting collapse, you're looking at your likes of Besto or Moeen or one of them to kind of dig in a little bit And I think Butler tried his best, and he was probably the only one that looks relatively assured. Ollie Robertson, he did okay as well, but it all kind of fell pretty quickly. I mean, like Mohammad Siraj was on a hat trick twice in the match, so it kind of fell in spades as well.
Yeah, that's the problem. The problem with England at the moment. They're losing wickets in clumps, which is never good. It's like Joe Root's coming in when it's 2 for 20, and then you get Sam Curran coming in when we've lost 3 wickets for 10 runs, so he's like
Sam Curran with a king pair. Him and Adam Gilchrist need to go and have a beer now. There are members of that exclusive club.
Moving on, I just want to have a quick mention of the batters, because we've talked about the good and bad of the captaincy and some of the bowlers. Just going through the scores there, KL Rahul on the first day scoring 120 in pretty emphatic fashion as well. I thought he did really well up until his dismissal there.
Yeah, I mean, runs at the top of the order are absolutely vital. And if you look at his score, as a percentage for the total, I mean, he scored a third at least of India's total runs and really set them up. I mean,
highest other score after that was 40.
Yeah. And in the similar vein, obviously Joe Root in the first innings with his 180, out of whatever it was, 390. Obviously, a few more Englishmen chipped in a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting as well. I think if you look at that first innings, there weren't too many other contributions. Pujara is due. I mean, he's not scored 50 in I don't know how many innings. He's obviously occupying the crease, which if you put him in an England shirt, they'd probably take right now. But he's 12 off 100 balls. If you're scoring 12 off 100 balls and then you get out, I mean, you're still 2 for 20. That's the thing. You're taking time out of the game, and okay, that's fine in certain contexts. But batting on the first morning, it perhaps isn't what you want to do unless you've been sent in on a raging green one, So yeah, he needs some runs, and Kohli's not been in great form either, despite his hype. Obviously he's a bit of a fig jam. When was the last time he scored 100 in Test cricket? Long time ago. So
in Australia, probably. He didn't get runs in Australia either, did he?
No.
We didn't play. He played the first Test, and then he
played
went home.
First Test. That's right.
Yeah. And that he didn't do particularly well in the Indians, in the England series, the home England series, and we got him out in Southampton as well. So questions that the Indian top order need to answer as well. I think they're just quite lucky that the English top order are in absolute disarray. If they had a side against that scored 500 against them, then they might have some problems. Clearly, Dom Sibley's out of form, and he's thinking to himself, right, if I can stay here long enough, maybe I'll play myself into some form. But that tactic's perhaps not worked. So yeah, I wish I had the answers. I mean, Michael Vaughan said, I'm sorry to quote Michael Vaughan most of the time, but a lot of the English top order are just simply not good enough at this level.
I think that's the problem. Is that there isn't anybody. The only name I can think of is the guy that we spoke to on this podcast, Selman, who's been getting runs for Glamorgan. But are England likely to throw somebody completely out of the blue into an Ashes series? I mean, Dom Sibley, I don't think he's good enough. Rory Burns has got a little bit about him, even though his technique looks really suspect. Obviously, Joe Root is at the moment the top batsman, other than your captain. I'm talking.
Your best mate, yeah.
My busy mate, Kane Williamson. But
I do think, just playing devil's advocate here, is there a point to be made that, look, if this is the best England's got, because they have. Is it worth just going, right, who's the ones that we can build for the future? So you like to your Johnny Besto that are in or out. You like to your Melvin Alley that are in or out. Sorry, thanks, but no thanks. You're moved on. Dom Sibley, you're out. And you like to use Zach Crawleys and these kind of guys, your Hamids, to go, right, if this is the best we've got, well then, for better or for worse, we build with this. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I don't know if they are good enough, and you need to win test matches. But if it's better to at least have a direction as far as English cricket goes, or English Test cricket at least goes, rather than this kind of half in, half out kind of measures.
Yeah, and in some ways, England are lucky and unlucky in the sense that they play more Test cricket than every other bloody Test side in the world combined. And my opinion on that. I've waxed lyrical about it for many podcasts. But in some ways, the fact that these guys are going to have to face up to this Indian attack again and again and again, it might be good that they can play themselves into some form, but in other ways, maybe it would have been better that they could go back to their counties. They could go back and play some white ball cricket and with a bit less pressure and work their way into a bit of form. But again, I'm meeting devil's advocacy with devil's advocacy because, I don't really have the ideas either. At the moment, there's nobody knocking on the doors. That I don't think they've got much choice but to just simply stick with it. I mean, better the devil you know, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But there is a chance that David Mullane will call up for the next test. I think Dom Sibley, look, I think he's had enough chance, in my opinion, unfortunately for him. Look, he's had a chance to play himself back into form. When he get 28, the whole session between morning, first ball and lunch, 28, and then get out the third over after lunch. It seems to me that he's more than stumbling to find form. He needs a break himself. He don't know. Maybe he's mentally shot.
You would be after playing India away and then back home.
Yeah. I mean, you have to look at what he's done over the last year and how much it's hurt him. I mean, Ben Stokes is the prime example, how much it's, it affected him. He's obviously had some off-field things to deal with too. But imagine what pressure Dom Sibley is on, because nobody else other than Joe Root is scoring runs for England at the moment.
And if Joe Root's not scoring runs,
that's it.
Yeah.
How many? If that you can see by the test scores that England have got over the last few test matches, they hardly get past 200, let alone 300. That's where they're at the moment. That's what they've got, and that's what they've got to go with. And if that's what they have to go with, then perhaps you do stick with what they've got, and better, like you said before, better the devil you know, or do you just completely sweep the broom through the cupboard and chuck out, the I can't think of any more metaphors, but you know what I mean. But but the other thing is, the good thing is, Australia's almost in the same boat. I think Australia's got one more class batsman who's in form, although we don't know what their form is because they haven't played Test cricket for a year.
Yeah, but Australia
Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne, and they've also got the fact they're playing at home as well.
Australia have two advantages that England don't have, which I think is going to leave them fine in the Ashes. They've got a functioning pace attack that is together and a fit and can work as a team, like as a unit. Whereas England have got good bowlers, but they don't hunt as a pack of four. Australia have got a better spinner, and Australia got home ground advantage. Simple as that. So
and they got Smith and Labuschagne.
Yeah. It goes without saying, and they've got two of the three best, or two out of the four best batsmen in the world at the moment in their side. So yeah, I mean, for me, that's why it's 4 or 5-0 at this stage. If it happens, I mean, who knows? God, COVID might scupper the Ashes. You just
exactly.
I do think as true as it is that how mediocre England are, and they are mediocre, let's be honest. I think this Indian team will have to go down. I can see them dominating Test cricket for the next kind of 2-3 years. I mean, look, New Zealand are number one in the world over this last cycle, and I mean, very fair to say that they are still number one in my opinion. However, I can see this Indian team, yes, they didn't get the biscuits in Southampton, but
yeah,
they're a quality attack, and they will be a quality attack for years to come, I believe.
And there's 4. They've got a couple more who could come in as well. Plus, they're not playing Ravi Ashwin, who's one of the best spinners in the world at the moment. So they can afford to leave him out and still win a Test match. Yeah. Plus, they've got Jadeja, who can do anything, in my opinion. And they've got Virat Kohli. Love him or loathe him, he's Hollywood, Pant is Hollywood.
He is the greatest. Is Virat Kohli, and I wouldn't. That's the thing. You've got to make sure that if you're an opposing side, you've got to be calling him the greatest all the time.
He loves it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So he thinks he's in Bollywood, definitely, and I'm sure.
But they've got top order that scores runs. We just talked about.
And they've got. Don't forget, they've got that. They've got players that Prithvi Shaw. They've got
Agarwal.
A couple of Agarwal. There's another opener that I can't think of. They got Washington Sundar, who could come in that side as well. So they've got strength in depth. The IPL has made Indian players not frightened of the rest of the world like they might have been a few years ago. They don't care. But you can see that from Mohammad Siraj. He doesn't give a shit what the English players say to him. He doesn't give a shit whether Rory Burns is giving him back chat or anything like that. He doesn't give a shit. He'll bowl you another ball. He'll just come in and bowl you another ball. And that's like you said, England haven't got the patience.
Test cricket's a mental game, isn't it? It's up here.
That's why it's called Test cricket.
No, that's it.
That's why it's called Test cricket, because it's supposed to test you physically and mentally.
That's right.
And at the moment, England lost physically and mentally. England completely lost the plot with the bowling. They lost the plot with the sledging. India were wound up so much that it gelled them as a team. If they could do that even more than they were already. I mean, they're like a well-oiled machine at the moment, and I think there will come a time, sadly for New Zealand, which would be that they will become the number one Test team in the world.
Oh yeah,
of course. The way they're going.
Yeah, we've got to play India in this test cycle. So that's going to be a challenge.
We'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for that. We'll catch you again soon. Hey, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.